This is Chris Elliott from 86 Bullets. You're watching the Krash Kourse Metal Show.
Something's wrong. Why can't you see? There ain't no way to escape. Baby, I'm a prisoner. Oh, chained by love. It's so easy to see. I could never be free. I'm a prisoner, chained by love.
Going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Krash Kourse Metal Show. I'm your host, Trevor Crash Knight, and today we're going to be bringing you a Krash Kourse album review, and that album is going to be none other than 1987's Back for the Attack from Dokken. This is Dokken's fourth studio album and the last one of pretty much the 80s and classic era. I guess you would say the classic, because they did end up coming out in 95 with Dysfunctional with the original lineup. But, you know, as it pertains to the golden age of rock and metal music, this is the last one that they released. So, and I hear, you know, this is, everyone always likes to go towards, you know, some of the other Dokken albums as the better one, like Under Lock and Key. You know, sometimes you hear Tooth and Nail thrown in there. Shadow Life, just kidding about that one. But I like to argue for Back for the Attack. So we will do that here. But before we get deep into it here, you know, hang out with us for a little while. We are going to be bringing some very cool interviews here shortly, and me and Chris Elliott from 86 Bullets are going to be doing some new series as well, so keep an eye out for that. Just hang out with us, you know, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We love hanging out with you guys and, you know, hearing your guys' views on some of these albums and just music, heavy metal in general. So like I said, did come out in 1987. It was on Enigma Records. The length is actually 63 minutes, which is somewhat surprising. I didn't actually realize that this was that long of an album, but it does have 13 tracks, so that makes total sense. You know, with one of the singles obviously being Dream Warriors, that is probably Dokken's biggest hit, I would say. Certainly the top two biggest hit for him in the band. Obviously being in The Nightmare on Elm Street, the third one, Dream Warriors, and you know, it's a good movie as well, and that just helped catapult this album. And obviously, at the time, Dokken was a huge band. And that's kind of like what I want to get back. I want to talk about near the end of the video once we wrap up the album review. Is that how close were Dokken really to being one of the best 80s bands, rock bands there was? Were they just one album away, or you know, we'll jump into that later. So, but the other singles that you had was Burning Like a Flame, good song. Heaven Sent on the slower side of things. So Many Tears, mid-tempo type deal. So, the album did reach number 13 on the US Billboard 200 chart, which is quite good. And I'm sorry, I said that this was on Enigma Records. It is on Elektra. So, yes. Classic Elektra. But it did end up getting certified platinum as well, and rightfully so. It's just I think a really good album, one of Dokken's best. So we will jump into some of the, well, first off, we'll go with the lineup here. We got Don Dokken on lead vocals, we got George Lynch obviously on guitars, Jeff Pilson on the bass and backing vocals, and Wild Mick on drums and background vocals as well. Produced by Neil Kernan. So, you know, you do get a lot of like 8s, 3s in the reviews that I see anyway. And I think they're shortening it a little bit. They're shortening it. So let's jump into the track listings. You got Kiss of Death. You kick it off. Really, really good song. Then you move on to Prisoner. Baby, I'm a prisoner. Yeah, it's just really... And then you move on to Night by Night on the third track. Really good stuff. I dig that one. Standing in the Shadows. fine. Heaven Sent, and then you finish off the first side with Mr. Scary, which is just a instrumental. George Lynch just goes wild. Basically, he has really cool riffs in here. A 4.5 minutes, pretty much instrumental from George, and certainly many a guitar player's favorite. And then you start the second side here with So Many Tears. Then you go into Burning Like a Flame, Lost Behind the Wall, and you got coming in here at 10, Stop Fighting Love, which is kind of just okay. That might be my least favorite on the album. Then you got 11, Cry of the Gypsy, 12, Sleepless Night. I really like that song. And then you finish off the album with, I guess technically the add-on, which is Dream Warriors. It wasn't because the song from, I believe, came out before the album actually was released and such, obviously because of the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. So yeah, I think it's a strong track listing. And now for being, what is that, the fourth album here of Dokken, you're looking at a strong 13 song album titles. It's just it's crazy that they're at the top of their game here, and obviously we all know what happened after that. They split up. George Lynch went on, well, pretty much everyone except Dokken went on to do Lynch Mob, and which Lynch Mob is a great band. Those first two albums of Lynch Mob are really good, and obviously here, and then Don Dokken went on to do Don Dokken, Up From the Ashes, which is also a good album in its own right as well. But I do lean more towards the Lynch Mob stuff of that time. But still, both three really good outputs from each respective parties. And man, I like I said, I do love Sleepless Night. That's a good mid-tempo type song. Lost Behind the Wall is underrated, I think. Man, Night by Night's kind of like a more on the fun side of things. You get a good seriousness here with Dokken as well, which you do get seriousness more. It's not all. Don Dokken doesn't usually do tongue-in-cheek type stuff, especially like later on in like maybe on the first album or two, you get a little bit of that. But once Under Lock and Key comes around, it starts to get a little bit more maturing in songwriting, I think, personally. And then obviously here with, Back for the Attack, it's ripe, it's matured, it sounds really good stuff. Yeah, I definitely here, guys. This is, and then everyone loves Dream Warriors. Everyone loves Dream Warriors. I don't know one person that don't like Dream Warriors. Sure, it might not be your favorite song, but it's still, when you hear it, you know who it is, you know the song, and it fits in perfect with the movie as well. Perfect soundtrack song. One of the things since I did bring it up earlier, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Like, was obviously Dokken was at the top, was one of the top bands at the time here, and do you think they were just maybe one album away from cementing themselves as like a band that in 2023, instead of like Guns N' Roses or a band like that, or Motley Crue, do you think they would have overtook Motley Crue if they would have put another album, a good solid album out like this? Do you think they could have overtook a band like that as like the first thing that people think of the 80s? They think of Dokken instead of Motley Crue. That's a good question. We might have to debate that sometime. We might have to bring a panel on here. But for me, though, I would love to think so. But the Motley Crue tide seems to be... It seems to be hard to stop. Now, I personally like Dokken more than Motley Crue. I think Dokken blows Motley Crue away. But musically and songwriting and stuff like that. But, it's usually the mainstream doesn't look at those kind of things. They look at they look at the, just how much Motley Crue is in the news, and obviously just like, don't get me wrong, Motley Crue has good stuff. Really good stuff, and really radio friendly stuff as well at the same time. Same with Dokken. but there's something about Motley Crue that people just attract to, I would say, more than they would Dokken. But it's an interesting debate, an interesting question. I'm just kind of spitballing here with some of the, going back and forth with my decision, but I do like thinking about that because like this album is stellar. This is really good. Now, like I said, there is one or two weaker tracks that aren't on my iPod that do get left off or skipped, if you will. But man, when this plays, man, I could play it all. It's for a 13-track album. This is strong. This is I always like to bring this up at least like the last 10 years with this album because me and a couple buddies we've been fans of Dokken, like I said, at least for me longer than 10 years. But like when I was in high school, I always introduced my friends like Dokken and stuff like that. And from all the albums, they enjoyed like Dream Warriors and such like that, but it didn't really have that single like The Hunter, It's Not Love, Breaking the Chains. It doesn't really have, or Alone Again maybe. It doesn't really have anything like that as far as the singles go other than Dream Warriors. So I don't know if it was just like the singles that were just a tad weak that, but I think every song is strong though. It's a strong listen all the way through. And then obviously with like Lock and Key, was it only 8 tracks? 9 tracks if it might be only 8. I can't remember. Maybe it might be pushing 10. I just honestly it's behind me, but I can't remember. But yeah, it's certainly not 13 tracks, and it certainly feels a hell of a lot shorter in length than this does. 63 minutes, obviously, for Back for the Attack. It's just really. It's really good, man. This might be my favorite Dokken album. The more I think about it, like, I could just pop this on. Like, sure, I do like, In My Dreams, like, that's a great song. The Hunter's a great song. Two of my absolute favorites of Dokken, those two. But as an album, though, like, and this is, for as strong as it is, it's a little underrated, I think. To an extent, not like underrated where like no one knows about it because obviously Dream Warriors this, Dream Warriors that. But it's certainly, and I kind of dig the album cover too. I also like Tooth and Nail album cover, and I also like Under Lock and Key. The album covers are pretty cool, but this one just stands out. It's nice colors to it, very very cool. So yeah, great soloing. I like the production as well on here. It's I think it's fine. Nothing wrong with it. But as much as I like this album, it also hurts me to play this though at the same time because of what we discussed a little bit beforehand. What if they didn't break up? What if they put out another album? What if they put out another 2 albums? Would they have survived in the early 90s, mid 90s, through the grunge and all that alternative stuff? I don't know.
You can tell me I'm a doctor.
No, I mean, I'm just not sure.
Or can't you take a guess?
Well, not for another 2 hours.
You can't take a guess for another 2 hours?
Would they have fared better than Motley Crue? I mean, we see what Motley Crue put out. Other than the self-titled Motley Crue album with John Corabi, they didn't put out much good of anything. And basically talk about Generation Swine, which there is some, I guess, okay stuff on there. But it's very minuscule. But back to Dokken here. Yeah, certainly check it out, guys. For me, I'm giving this an easy 4, but I think I would go 4.5 out of 5 on my Krash Kourse rating here. I dig it. It's, man, I know I kind of sound like a broken record while I show off the record. Very cool here. Here's the insert. Then here's the guys. It's a shame they just had to break up. It's a very strong classic album here. It certainly went one when you get the casual Dokken fan. You don't hear too many songs that they talk about off this album other than Dream Warriors. So I think that's why I kind of like pushed it on the side of underrated or overlooked, maybe is a better word instead of underrated. But classic stuff on here. Classic stuff. It might have not been the strongest. That's not even the right phrase or word. Strongest singles, I was gonna say, because the singles are still strong. They're really good, but I don't know. I don't know. I think what also kind of hurt is obviously they ended up breaking up soon after this, so that kind of hurt maybe the sales and such. Like, so it's just a shame. But for me, 4 out of 5, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of Back for the Attack, and also let me know what you think though too of it. Like, do you think they would have fared better in the late 80s, early 90s, and throughout the 90s if they would have put out another classic album or two with the classic lineup instead of waiting for Dysfunctional? Because there is good stuff even on Dysfunctional. Now, as a whole, but man, like the Maze and such, like that's some good stuff in there. Too High to Fly. Oh man, I every time I listen to that song, it gets better and better for me. But at that time you're looking at 95, they just getting back together. Everything's weird, just weird music landscape, weird world.
Your music's bad and you should feel bad.
It's certainly this album is so bittersweet for me. It brings up a lot of different emotions towards Dokken and as a band and such like that. So it certainly, but one of my favorites, no doubt. So, guys, let me know in the comments what you think of this album and what you think of just Dokken overall. Is this your favorite Dokken album? Let me know. So, guys, like I said before, we love having you here. Click the subscribe button. Hang out with us for a while. We are going to be bringing you guys a lot of cool and different stuff here, especially if you like the heavy metal, hair metal, if you will, AOR, thrash metal. We bring some of that in here. Traditional metal. Even we're starting to bring some modern metal stuff in here too. There's some good local stuff around me that's really good as well. Keep an eye out. So, guys, until next time, I'm Trevor Krash Knight. Thank you for watching the Krash Kourse Metal Show. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later.
Yeah, I wrote that. It's called I Want to Rock Your Body. And then in parentheses it says to the break of dawn.